So when it happened, it was tough. It was tough for both of us. But
I'm clowning for her just to make her laugh, and I think in my mind that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
that period of wait was the most silent I've ever been with my wife. Because I felt like maybe there was something I could have done differently. Maybe.
I'm still hanging out with Bamidele, Collins, Ola, and Taiwo. We're all dads, and over our conversations, we found out that we share other things in common besides the fact that we're blessed to be people's fathers. So, guys, it's okay if you do not want to disclose, but I mean, we're all men here. We've been through things. But has anyone here, has your spouse experienced? Have you guys had a miscarriage before? I have. Did that give me permission to share?
Yeah.
I haven't.
I am.
Yeah.
So you see, there are 5 men sitting here, and 3 out of our 5. I assume we're all married to one woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
1 man each, not to the table. So, but I mean, so the statistics just at this table is alarming.
Yeah.
Because something that is so prevalent, something that is so common, is hardly ever spoken about. And even when it is spoken about, it's usually from, the woman's perspective, or, what she could have done better, what she can do better next time. Nobody's talking about what we should be doing or how we should be going about it. If you have a miscarriage, you haven't, it's not only your wife who has lost a baby, you have lost a baby as well. So it's okay to grieve. But then our society doesn't give you that, that permission to actually grieve properly while trying to be there, for your spouse. So I'm not an expert, yeah. So, but I know that there are different types of miscarriages. With us, what happened was we did a scan, and then the doctor said that there was no heartbeat, and then he had to do an evacuation, right? So under what category does that fall?
Okay, that type is actually inevitable, definitely. They made a diagnosis of most likely what we call a bladder ovum on scan.
Okay.
The gestational sac is there,
Yeah.
but there is no, the fetal pod might be there.
Yes,
too.
there was the fetal pod,
and there is no
but there's no
heartbeat.
heartbeat. Yeah.
That's most likely a bladder ovum. It might even be there till 3 months, and it will not drop. And one day we just start bleeding heavily, and that's it. It's good that they saw it early.
Yeah.
And they are to advise. But most times, we do tell people that, say, if they diagnose a bladder ovum from this particular center, it's good to always get at least 2 different opinions.
Yeah.
Let this 2
Which
centers.
they actually made us do. They actually made us go to another. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I've experienced the clients that only had 1 scan done, and from my experience, she has not the same bladder ovum once. The doctor just evacuated it. Then she got pregnant again. They came to us, and I was counseling them for evacuation also and all that. But the grandmother, or let me say the mother-in-law, cut the whole story short and was like, no, doctor, don't do evacuation yet. Like, I would like her to get a second opinion done. I was told her that, yes, I was going there. She said, yes, let's do that. Then she went to another center to do the scan again, and they said the baby was fine. Then we had to admit her and try to place on some management and watch for a while. She gave birth to a baby boy that particular year. That boy should be like 8 years now. Can
you imagine? He's running around there.
That boy will have been evacuated if his second opinion was not
scary.
Yes,
And I feel like that's one of the things that we do not do enough of here, get a second opinion, because when the doctor did the scan and told us that there was no fetal heartbeat, he referred us to another diagnostic center to do another scan, and they confirmed it. Now, after that, we went back to our doctor, who now had a conversation with us about what the options were. Now, the end point was, look, we're going to have to do an evacuation, right? So, at that point, I felt like, and I know that, it was probably my emotions at the time, which is fine, because, this is my wife we're talking about, and my child, I felt I don't know what it was, but I just felt like a natural instinct to kick back push back and be like, no, we're not doing that, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Was that the same way you felt?
I always have this, maybe if I had responded, we wouldn't have gone through this experience. So when it happened, it was tough. It was tough. It was tough for both of us. But for me, it was the after effect that I felt more, because after it all happened, I felt bad. I felt like I had failed as a father, as a husband, as a man generally, because she had to turn around and like, okay, I'm not holding you responsible, but I was holding myself responsible because I felt like maybe there was something I could have done differently, maybe. So it was overnight when she called my attention to it, and then she started sporting, and then we saw the whole thing come out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we saw a bulk of it come out. So we had to, because it was in the middle of the night, we could not go anywhere based on our location at the time. We had to hold on till morning. So that period of wait was the most silent I've ever been with my wife. It was quiet, it was deafening. The silence was deafening. We didn't say anything to each other. We both just were in our corners. So when it was morning, she went. I was still angry at myself. She thought I was angry at her. Still angry at myself. I kept to myself. She went ahead. Then I later joined her at the hospital. Then she met with a doctor, and she went for scan, and okay, the scan says okay, there are still some things in there. So I think that falls under the incomplete abortion. So we had to go to the hospital for evacuation, and we were lined up for the operation. And the only thing I could ask for to support her was if I could join them in the theater. I don't know why doctors do that. They said, no, you can't join them.
I think it's because it's really traumatizing.
Yeah, but I think it's important. Allow them know what is going on. If you can allow me to witness a childbirth, why won't you let me witness the other side of it? Life is yin and yang. Life is both good and bad. So watching her build in was heartbreaking for me. So watching her come out was a relief, was mixed for me, because I was not happy for where she was coming from. I was glad that she was fine. So we find a way around it. At the point, I tried joking about it, but I think I was very insensitive, because anytime I joke, for the first time I joked about it, she lost her mood immediately. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll stop joking about it. That was just me trying to help her out of, because so we processed it differently. But as for me as the man, this is the first time I'm coming out that we had miscarriage. The story of our miscarriage is between both of us. No one knew about it, but I tried in my part to help her manage it, but I knew that after that, we were both afraid to have sex. She was eager to have sex so that we can try again as soon as possible. But I was afraid, more afraid than she was. Yeah. So she was balancing that eagerness, that fear with eagerness to get pregnant again. I was not eager. I was purely understand. I was fearful. Yeah. So I processed that with fear, but she was lucky for me. She was able to get me out of that fear. And we just have to try again. It was not your fault, and technically it's still my fault. So, but we had to process that the best way we can, and then we find a way. And luckily, we're blessed than that beautiful girl. So, so even the story of that one is another thing. But it was a smile. Yeah. It was smile in the end, but the experience is shit. I don't wish anyone to have it.
First of all, I will thank you so much for sharing this with us, because I'm not going to lie. I can relate. When we experienced, the miscarriage, it took me a while to be able to look myself in the mirror and not feel like I had done something wrong. So, it's similar, with your own situation. She was the one who was, So for the first few weeks, obviously, I took time off work, spent it at home, taking care of her, making sure that, I basically functioned. You understand? I handled my responsibilities, but then I wasn't dealing. I wasn't dealing with how I was feeling. I was focused on, making sure that
She's okay.
she was okay mentally, physically.
Yeah, you were supporting her while even you needed to be supported.
And I blamed myself big time. I neglected myself, and part of the reason why I neglected myself was because I felt like I was responsible.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
And you see, there's this guilt that as a man you're carrying, because if you hadn't gotten her pregnant in the first place, she wouldn't have experienced that and had to go and do an evacuation that, probably has her traumatized, and by default, you are also traumatized because it's your fault that, you knocked somebody's daughter up.
Yeah.
And here she is going through. It's a lot of churning constantly. Your mind is churning out reasons why you are a mess.
True.
And what you end up doing is becoming more of a mess because you're not dealing, you're not processing, you're functioning.
Yeah.
I've spoken to people who have lost a child or I have lost, when my mom passed away, I didn't mourn until like 4 or 5 months after. I was driving in Abuja one afternoon, and suddenly I felt like somebody has hit me with a sledgehammer in my chest. And I couldn't, for a brief moment, I couldn't see. I had to park, and I cried for like an hour. Thankfully, the car was tinted, so I cried in the car. I didn't go to my house. I drove to my friend's house, and I spent like 4 days in his house. And every morning, he would wake up and come to check up on me and meet me crying. And I did that away from my siblings. I'm the oldest child. I did that away from my siblings. And I realized that was the first time since my mother had passed away that I've been away from my siblings. So subconsciously, I had been functioning because it is my responsibility to be strong. And that is primarily the reason why a lot of men cannot look, themselves in the eye and allow themselves to feel. But for everyone out there who will experience it, just whatever you do, make sure that you can talk to your spouse. Because in my experience, I realized when I now opened up to her and let her know how I was feeling. It helped her feel better.
Yeah.
Because she was there thinking she was the only one who was going
through the whole thing. Yeah.
She felt like, how is he so okay? How is he functioning? How
It's a
is
strong temptation for you to actually feel that way.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah.
She felt alone. She was like, okay, he's here. He's holding my hand. He's stroking my hair. He's giving me hot baths. He's giving me massages. He's bringing me my favorite meals. He's going to work and coming back and making sure there's someone who comes to come and sort stuff out at home when he's not there. He is doing what he should do. Why is he not crying?
Yeah.
Why is he not sad? Because every time I was around her, in my mind, I'm like, you're supposed to cheer her up. So I'm giving her gist. I'm distracting her. I'm like, oh, have you seen this? You need to check this out. Blah, blah, blah. I'm clowning for her just to make her laugh. And I think in my mind, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But what she needed was for me to let her know that, oh, my, they pay me too.
Yeah.
She needed to know that we were both
In the boat,
unhappy
yeah.
because we had lost a pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
There's this part, extended families, especially siblings of the wife. So my brother, 2013, the wife had miscarriage twice, same year, and that was at the time where he really got a good job and he quickly put in something. So what the feedback he got from the wife's family was that it's probably fetish. So when he got so the third time the wife got pregnant, the mom came and just took away the wife. You're not going to stay with this man. So then the miscarriage still happened. Then they now just came out and started saying probably there's something
wrong with it.
Can you just have money all of a sudden? So since then, that's 2013.
Trust Africans.
So he separated from her, and then he would tell any of his girlfriends, I don't want to have kids.
That's from it. That's trauma. That's now see the way he's processing trauma by denying it. He's denying himself the joy of being a father because of the trauma. Now he hasn't even processed it at all. The first one, the second one, the third one. He has not processed either. I'm very sure of
He has
it.
not even dealt with his own heart. He's dealing with the accusations.
Of being fetish.
He's now focused on trying to avoid being accused anymore. Instead of actually dealing
with the pain that he has lost 3 kids.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just it's enough to. It's not a place that I enjoy going back to. But one of the things that we had to talk about, should we tell grandma, like my mother-in-law, so because when you get married, of course, your in-laws and your own parents are going to be like, yes, start having kids and everything. It was a conversation we had to have. Like, okay, so are we going to just keep this between the two of us? Like, I mean, it's us. We can contain this matter. And so she was like, yeah, let's not tell my mom. Like, let's not get her worried, because she would worry. She would be like, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing? This is what we need to do. This, So she was like, nah, let's not tell her. Eventually, because we're both very, and my mother-in-law, I love her. She's awesome, and she and I are really close. So eventually, one day she came through, and then we're just talking, and I realized that it was unfair, to keep that away from her. So I called Iwama, and I'm like, maybe we should just tell her. And she was like, I've actually been thinking that maybe we should just tell her. And we did. And I'm glad that we did, because there's she scolded us, of course. Why would you keep something like that away from me? Like, I'm your mother. I love you guys. Whatever is good for you is what I'm interested in. Yeah. And all of that. We're like, we just didn't want pressure and everything. She's like, no, don't look at it like that. And then she's like, you know what? I'm spending a few days with you guys. And then she came and she pampered us like it was nice. And I realized that was when I now started to feel like I had, is it time or space? I don't know what to call it, but I had like some freedom to start to process. You understand? And it was now at that, when grandma was around in the house, that and I now had time, and then I told her how I was feeling. And she was like, thank you for saying it, because this, that, and the other, I was worried that you didn't feel like, you had lost something as well. So, you know what? I mean, I did say at the beginning of this particular conversation that it was going to be heavy and uncomfortable. And Taiwo, thank you. Thank you so much for letting yourself be laid bare. Yeah. And I feel like I can really speak for the rest of the gentlemen here that the respect that I had for you before is probably double now. Yeah. That's as one of my friends say, that's some real man thing. So,
thank you.
And then, Dr. Ola, I mean, I know that in your profession you see these things all the time, but then having to be the one going through it while also being a professional at the same time, it could never be me. I don't think so. I can't. Like, I could never have. But she requested. She blackmailed you emotionally into being there. So thank you as well. And then
thank you.
Collins and Bamidele, you guys are not going to experience it. But the understanding and warmth that you guys just brought to this conversation.
Thank you. There is.
So I'm sorry if this conversation was uncomfortable for you, but it's important. Not everything that is good is comfortable. Yeah. Some uncomfortable things are good. Yeah. So I'm glad that we had this conversation.
The best part of the pregnancy for me was when food was coming to the house.
Your fine is not as you used to say fine. Odaran.
I've never seen that kind of case in my career.
It was Ghanaian money. I didn't see this coming.
There was a time we even ordered shawarma all the way from the island to the mainland.
Doctor, I'm not for meeting. If I'm pregnant,
you want for me.
You want us to admit you.
The conversation can continue online. Follow Tolu the midwife. And then in our comment section, just let us know if you have stories that you'd like to share or information that you'd like to, help us propagate. And we'll get back to you. Thank you for joining us.